Farmers markets look simple: a tent, some vegetables, maybe a loaf of bread, but behind that table are booth fees. There's insurance costs, there's classes that people have to take. There's also crop failures that happen. There's early mornings, long days ahead of setting up for market, and there's a big question: does this actually pay off? Today we are opening up the panel to anyone that has experience or just wants to speak about this as a farmer, as a gardener. Maybe you're a baker, maybe you're just a shopper, a buyer, someone who peruses the farmers markets, to talk about what really happens behind the farmers market table. So, Team Replay, let me know, are you a vendor? Are you thinking about becoming a vendor? What are some obstacles you're seeing with that in your local area? Are you a shopper? What do you hope to see new at the market this season, or someone that's thinking about selling? So let's just get this out of the way here. I am team farmers market. I am not trying to poo poo on farmers markets at all. I just want to have a real conversation. We had a live stream at the Urban Gardeners channel, and the topic of a gardener's market came up. It doesn't have to just be a farmer going there and selling things. It can be a gardener too that has extra in their backyard. I am a big fan of supporting locally grown food, and I want to help you find that. So I will be putting links in the description for finding a local farmers market for sure to help you guys. What sparked this is my local farmers market put out an ad of, what do you want to see coming up at the market? So of course I put my 2 cents in, which is what we're going to talk about. And do you want to be a vendor? Here's the 3-page application form, which I'm also going to talk about. So we have Robin Gardens up here with us. And let's see, is there anything in the private chat? Does the person in the basement want to come up now, or wait? Is what I'm trying to figure out. So while we're waiting for that message, let's welcome in who is here. Okay, Brooke Trout is here. Hit the thumbs up on your way in. Appreciate the support. And when you're a member, you get those fun icons that you can put up. We have Dusty Flats. Hey, I saw your comment on the most recent video. Appreciate your contribution to the channel, of course. We have Storms Radios, Eating My Stir Fry and Learning. Yes, Dave Knight is here. Hello, fellow gardener. Okay, and then I know we had Anastasia. I was going to click your name. Hey, good to see you here for this conversation. Oh, and then Ecology Today, of course. Good day to all from Huron County, Midwestern Ontario, Canada, in the lee of Lake Huron. I'm sure experiencing weather like always. Oh, yeah. Robin says to Storms Radios, what did you throw together? And Miss Sharon is here. So as we get into the conversation, if you haven't seen at the top of the chat, for those of you live with us, there is a magical link that does what Robin's doing, coming up on panel. If you have a camera and a mic and you can be respectful, follow, basic YouTube rules, we can have a conversation about this together. So going into the first subject, the hidden costs of being a vendor. Some of the questions we're going to talk about is, what does it cost to get started? What are the booth fees? Do you need insurance? How early do you have to harvest or prepare to actually get to the market on time? I would like, Robin, do you have anything, well, I could leave that up, to say about the cost to get started for your local area?
Yeah, when you emailed me about a half hour ago, I'm like, boop, 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 and took a look at the 5 suburbs around here. And interestingly, the most reasonable is the most posh of those suburbs to have a booth at their farmers market. I thought that was amazing. One of the most expensive is my little suburb, which is not that posh. It's kind of right in the middle, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But the booths run from $10 to 50. It gets decidedly cheaper if you will commit to a booth for the entire season.
Yeah, I've heard that here too. We do have another gardener, dare I say, expert on farmers markets with experience joining us on panel, and this is Jay Dixon. Welcome in.
Woohoo!
So the question is the cost to get started, booth fees and insurance. Like, what do you want to say?
Well, before we get started on a specific question, I just thought I'd give people a little primer about my background. It would be a stretch to call me an expert. However, however, I do have some experience here that might be useful for people. So, I had two experiences in this area, one when I was young and one when I was a little bit older, more life experience. And in each case, I was basically working for a market gardener. And in one case, I was just an employee, but I did hire people and I kind of had a bit of an assistant manager type role. And we did roadside stands and sold direct to restaurants and to the public. And the other role I had, I actually was in Urban Farm Project, and I was the assistant manager there. And we sold our produce in a very organized manner, quite planned, because it was quite expensive to go through the process. And we did it through CSAs. We did it through direct marketing to chez foufy chefs, like the expensive restaurants, and 4 farmers markets weekly. And then we sometimes had special events or other ways of kind of selling and marketing, because you don't want to be stuck with expensive produce at the end
No.
of the markets.
Mhm.
So I just thought I'd give people like that background. And I only did that for a couple of years, 1 year at one and a couple of years at the other. So not a lifelong experience, but maybe more than some people. So
I think what I've heard from people, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is when you sell in the market garden style to the chef and do the CSA boxes, you make more money for your time. Is that
yes.
correct?
Yes,
Mhm.
the more targeted you can be to what you grow for the specific people and what they want with as little waste as possible is the target, especially if you have a fair number of costs involved. And how do I put this? I have mixed feelings saying this because I'm quite a low income person myself, and I was during the process. However, you cannot compete in a farmer's market way or in a market gardener way with the cheap supermarket food. They are winning in volume, they're winning at advertising. So, generally speaking, my experience has been you have to do something different. You have to do something that is distinct, that is valuable, so that it is worth the time and the money and stuff you put into it. And again, I had mixed feelings about it because I was a low income person myself, still remain so. However, in order to turn a profit, we had to tailor our stuff to the people who have money and what they want that was separate and different than supermarket food.
I know it's unfortunate that nutrition alone doesn't sell.
Nope.
And knowing your community's demographic helps decide what to do at that booth. And I've also heard don't go for everything. Pick
Nope.
like 10 or less things
Yep.
to have on your spreadsheet of options. I do want to say hello to Oops before I get into my clipboard that I brought. And I have a comment from Jesse Flats. We have a couple market farmers not far away and then a couple smaller ones. I'm raising most now on your own in your garden. There is an herb lady. There's an herb lady? What? That's so
Okay.
cool.
I was considering becoming an herb lady at one point. Yes.
There's the stress to perform, to always have something coming out is kind of why I don't want anything to do with it,
There
right?
it's more complicated than people realize. For example, you mentioned that you got to try to tailor what you're going to offer at the market, or in our case, we found more profitable to specific restaurants and chefs, or CSA type baskets was kind of like less waste and more profit. How do I put this? To say it's profitable is a stretch. You're making sure you cover your costs is the reality. And if you go beyond that, you're thrilled. But part of the problem is when you are doing your farmers markets, let's pretend we're selling at a market. We want to have at least a back of the note envelope about what sold, what didn't sell, why we think it didn't sell weekly, like at each market. And we did 4 in a row so that the produce could kind of get maximally used. And then at the end, you're exhausted, October, November, you're trying to save whatever you can that can no longer sell, because most markets, at least in my area, are seasonal. So they finish around October, some around, we have Labor Day, early September, early October, or mid-October is when the markets end. And if you've got any produce at that point, you have to still have another way to utilize it somehow and hopefully not have waste. And then in your exhaustion, you kind of relax, pack everything up, put things away. And then now you're analyzing what went wrong, what went right. You're trying to crystal ball what you're going to have to do for the following year, because you have to start preparing the fields and the equipment to get ready, because we have real winter here in Canada. Well, you have real winter, both of you as well. And you're trying to forecast, because in December, you're ordering most of your seeds for the following year, and you're trying to guess what's going to sell at the market, about what competition you will have, what's going to grow or not grow in your area, who's going to buy what. And you don't have a lot of flexibility to change much, except the short crops, if you're wrong. So do you make a mistake or two or three or four, and then now all margins are gone? So it's not just a non-profit. It may actually be like losses. And what does that mean? Are you going to have to cut somebody's hours? Are you going to let things go? Are you going to have to, change change what you're doing and your growing and your marketing and all that kind of thing? So it's more stress and pressure than people ever think. You almost don't ever stop with mental and physical stress. You start most days at 5 or 6 in the morning, and you stop around 10 at night.
Did you hear that, everyone?
A lot of the growers start even earlier than that to drive to our farmers market. They, they're up at about 3 or 4 in the morning, and some of them are picking before they come because of what the produce is.
Correct. What we do is we start noting what we need at 3, 4 in the afternoon, and picking what can be okay to hold for 10 or 12 hours, and try and figure out how we can store it and whether we can stack it and pack it onto our, basically kind of trucks and trailers already, whether it's going to be okay in those conditions overnight, okay, but the temperatures and the circulation and all that kind of thing. And we get as much of that done as we can up till dark. And then we work after dark with the indoor crops, okay, to get those ready, because we want them as fresh as possible. But we get up at 4 or 5 in the morning and shine our headlights on the leaf crops, because we're picking for an hour or so for leaves and herbs and stuff like that to be as fresh as possible, cleaned, bagged, and off we go to market. And ideally, you're going to be there about 6. Yeah. And the only reason we had that little bit of extra time is we were on the edge of a city, so we didn't have a whole lot of driving time, and we had 2 people. So, one could be doing stuff in the vehicle while the other was getting ready. And then we went to the market, and we had an area where we could wash and process that last bit of very fresh stuff so that it was crisp when people showed up. Yeah.
So we have 3 vendors here that come from out of state. One comes with fruits from Michigan.
Yeah.
And 2 come from the lower half of Wisconsin. Yeah. Our farmers market all of the towns around here have been running for a lot of, decades. So it's pretty neat. Now, one of the other requirements, at least for a lot of years, was that they were organic in my town.
Okay.
So that added another level of,
We were too. Yeah. We very rarely used anything that wasn't organic. We weren't certified organic, but we had everything done by organic and other principles that people would want us to operate on. So it was on very rare circumstances that we ever in an emergency did anything, and then we would make it explicitly known by sign and verbally that we had to, involve a chemical. But it was so rare. I'm actually allergic to chemicals, so I wasn't I wasn't involved in that choice or that thing. But it's hard to explain the amount of constant stress you're under, of physical and mental exhaustion. It is, yeah. And the markets are, just to kind of go back to what you just said, Robin, is the markets, how ethically they run is extremely variable. And when you walk up as a customer, you have no idea. For example, one farmer's market that's quite large and splashy and well known, I would say probably less than 10% are people who actually bring their own produce. They
wow.
are buying from basically the skid at a produce wholesaler. And then they come and bring that there, and that's what they sell. And that's the majority. In our area, very little organic, very little locally produced. And some of them claim it, but I know it's not true because that's what sells. There is no legal requirement to, if you put the word local on there, there's no legal requirement that it means anything.
I have things to say about that. I'm going to do the chat and then I'm going to do what I want to say. So
Okay.
Dusty Flats is saying, I'm still in sticker shock from yesterday's rare trip to the local grocer. Seriously, most everything was $5 and up, and there's no more room to push those prices higher with fuel and fertilizer soon to go up. If you've missed the video that came out about food prices are going up, here's the plan. Check that out after this show. It is not to scare people. It is to just have a conversation about real life. Carol is here from South Florida Sunshine Tropicals. Very long days, and bless and encourage those who bring the heavy fresh fruit, those melons, pumpkins when you see them. And if you're there late, you might need to negotiate a deal to have something done with what's left, like Jay's mentioned before. You don't want to bring it back with you, right?
Nope.
Now, I have my clipboard here, and I did some research for this. Okay, so here's my local farmers market observations.
Yep.
To have the booth, the rent is $120 for the season. The reason you have to pay that, thank you for saying that's cheap, because there's an argument locally here.
Oh no, try 700 to 1,000 here.
That makes me want to throw up.
Don't throw up the food because you just bought it.
I know. Okay,
it's
so
expensive.
I don't know where your guys' farmers markets are, but ours is in a parking lot in downtown with no shade, and it's asphalt. So it's hot. It's ridiculous. There's actually no parking. And the parking lot's paid for by our tax dollars. So the question is why are we charging vendors this fee? Here's the answer. Insurance. The board of directors for the farmers market have to have an insurance policy, and this fee pays for that. Now you can pay, like Robin was saying, per time, but it's cheaper to do the whole year. To get a table, a nice table to put your stuff on, that could be $125. Okay, depending on how big your little booth thing assignment is. The nice Euromax canopy that I like is $200, and you need to weigh it down, by the way. To have a till to put your money in, that's a good $30 for a not nice one. I was gonna maybe say some language we don't say.
A couple hundred here. A couple hundred here. Canadian, we all pay more.
Like, this is like the dinky plastic, it's gonna blow away one,
We did anchors.
You can get 6 totes to carry your product in for $48, if that's enough for you or not. Then
40.
just one cooler is $40 for a crappy one, like maybe you need
not a
signage.
Yeti.
It's not a Yeti. No, that's what, $200?
No, ours are 90 here for the low end cooler.
For the weird plastic, like basic signage is important, and the minimum amount of money spent on signage, you could get away with $30, but it's easily $100 for quality. If it's vinyl, if it's burlap, if it's done by a printing shop. And then the packaging to put the food in or to give it to the customer, low end $40, and how many times do you spend that $40? Like, we're looking at $633 the day you walk in and set up your sign.
Or more than that sometimes.
You know?
The Canadians are beleaguered people. I just want everybody to shed a tear for us. We pay at double for a lot of the stuff that you guys do, or more. And for some of the things that you mentioned, like the shelter
Yeah.
or the table, every market we went to, we had to supply that. So we paid $700 to $1,200 a year, which is only seasonal because we're a frozen tundra here. Okay, a lot of the year. And we had to haul in the vehicle, not just the produce, and whatever display material and stuff you might want to have, and a way to process the money and all that kind of thing. We'd supply our own insurance. So we had to pay separately for insurance, and we had to supply the tables and whatever decor and stuff you want to do, because we're trying to sell to the people who've got a fair bit of money. So they just don't want, in a leftover bag or something plunked there. They expect a little artistry, a little display, and that shelter thing, had to buy that and bring that too. And those things, no matter how much you spend, there will be 5 to 6 days when it's in danger of being smashed into smithereens, no matter what.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the bad weather days. I feel so bad for them. I try to go to the farmers market the most when it's crappy weather
Yeah,
out
when
because
it's raining, I agree to help
yeah.
support them that day. Now, there are rules like we've been talking about on what
Yep.
you can and can't get away with. So with my local farmers market, you have to be within 25 miles living
Oh,
or
Oh,
your
wow.
farm of our market, which I didn't know that because I thought people were coming further, and I can't give my location. And then it is a grow or make only.
yep.
You cannot wholesale purchase and resale.
Really?
Okay.
My community is retired folks. So, for example, why that matters to me is I wanted to sell cut flowers for $20 bouquets. They're not going to pay $20 for a bouquet. They're
Yep.
going to pay $10 for a bouquet. We also do have families and kids that come because there's a ton of programs at our farmers market that encourage children to be there. And so that's like my demographic here. Eddie says that's how it is here. They go to Birmingham Farmers Market and buy it and then resell it at our market. Carol says, I am there to buy local grown, pissed if it's not from a local farm. Dave Knight says, lots of farms have roadside stands in my area. I could not compete with them, but I don't spray my produce. I think a common theme I see is people go to the farmer's market maybe year one to get the customer, and then they start their own stand that has their own hours on site and direct people to go there. Sometimes I've seen that.
Mhm.
Do you pick is another conversation. I have a pick your own farming book
Yep.
that I've talked about on the channel before on how that works and doesn't work depending on a lot of things. Location's a huge one on city population. I'm going to see if there's anything else in the chat. Okay. Go ahead.
Earlier, I did use a little bit of jargon that I did not explain. I said CSA is one of the ways that the more mature, more established place that I worked with doing market gardening was. And CSA, for those who aren't familiar, is community supported agriculture. And essentially, it's you as a shareholder, a buyer, a guaranteed buyer of the produce. So what the farmer does is back months before they're even ever planting it out and starting it in the greenhouse, let alone into the ground, they are trying to get as many people to commit so that they can forecast what they're going to need, what variety of products they're going to make, how much of it they're going to have. And it's a more stable, less loss of an income, less costly method to deal with someone, because basically people have kind of like guaranteed in advance your sales. And so it allows you to do future casting a lot more reliably. So there's usually CSAs somewhere where you live, whether it's going to cover your area or not. I can't speak to that. But in our areas, they kind of come and go depending on the energy, because it is also exhausting. It's just slightly less exhausting than doing the farmers markets. And we've had probably about 4 or 5, even though I live in quite a rural area, show up.
I
The
will be
C
able oh, sorry, Robin, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, I did CSA a couple of years before I had a really big garden, and you could pick an 8-week program, a 10-week program, um, and it was really reasonable. And when I did it, you could pick your produce. I went right to the stand and I got to pick 8 things from the stand rather than they picked for me. So it was great. Now mostly the CSAs you're going to get what they're choosing for you. But uh I mean it's a very good way to support the farmer.
It's usually less cost than at the farmers markets. It's usually, for us, we had small, medium, and kind of like extra large boxes based on, pardon me, your consumption or how many people in the household, depends how you want to think about it. And sorry, I just want to grab a little water. I'm having a
Okay.
little pickle.
We, I have experience with CSAs here that I can speak
Okay,
about too.
go ahead.
Okay, so I've been to the farm. I drove there and looked at their caterpillar tunnels and their high tunnel. I follow them to see, like right now, I know what they have planted and getting started. I have purchased from them and they run it through a website. So think about that as another cost because that's not free. What happens is exactly what Robin mentioned. You can sign up for how many weeks, and we have a very short season here. You can sign up for a half share or a full share. You could buy a full share and split it with another family. They give you an entire list of what they offer throughout the year that could be rotated in your box. They had at one point a drop site. So they would drive all of the boxes to a co op locally. This is how I first got into it and I didn't have a big garden. So you would go there on a certain day at a certain time and get your box that you've already paid for. So right now in March at this time is when we sign up for our share. Our payment is put in, and they have sometimes programs to help pay for shares if you fill out applications if they have that program. This is the one that I'm speaking of. They
Yep.
actually closed the co-op. The people couldn't, it was a privately owned, employee owned place. It's closed now. This CSA farm doesn't come to my farmer's market. I have to drive. And so they are starting deliveries, but I am not close enough for the delivery. Now,
Yes.
I am growing a big enough garden where it doesn't pay for me to drive 40 minutes in a van that is $80 to fill or more to go get that box. But it worked for me in a time at a system. And so the other thing that Robin mentioned was the swapping out of things. They do offer when you come to the farm to pick up the box or at a farmer's market a little option of what do you want to trade out of it?
Yes.
They also have the option to skip a box. You can skip a week if you're going on vacation, then they know don't put a box out for me.
Yes. I just want to. We went through all of that, and um, how it can operate can change based on how many workers they've got, what kind of setup, what kind of delivery, what places they have available to them, and it can change over time. What we found was at the last place where we were quite a large operation and quite organized, that for us, you pick and people being actually in the field did not work well for us. The amount of theft, damage, people management, and all that kind of thing was just unbelievable, really, really problematic. And so we went to basically a CSA where it was pre-made boxes. If you showed up at the farm to pick it up, we would allow you to swap out. We had like reasonable swap options of, because some things are worth so much more value than others. So kind of we had an A, B, or C box, and you could take, say, a potato and switch it out for another vegetable, but you couldn't get like a $30 thing of honey for a potato, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but we did have reasonable swapping, and then we also had drop locations that people chose to be basically a host site, and some of them did it just for free, and sometimes the CSA will allow the host a little bit of a an incentive, you might say. A part of their share might be a little more gentle cost or a little extras in it for being willing to be a host site. And if a CSA near you does not have a drop site that's kind of in your area, you might consider trying to figure out how that could happen. Sometimes it's done as just a person's house or garage. Sometimes it's done as a public place, like a community center, or she was talking about a co-op. They're well worth considering if you're into medium to higher end food and you don't want to pay the full retail price. Plus, what you're doing is you're supporting, like CSA, community supported agriculture, you're supporting a local farmer and local employees to like cover their costs and stuff like that. So it's not distant food that's traveled, 500, 1,000 kilometers to get to you. It is a local person who was able to make their mortgage payment because you and 3 of your friends, are being involved with what they do.
Yeah.
So I just looked up the organic one that I had done previously, and now, it's got to be 10, 15 years ago. It would be the equivalent of $44.44 a week for a commitment of 9 weeks.
Okay.
And it does now list all the things that will possibly be in the box. But honestly, $44.44 a week to get a box of produce like I did before. I mean, I couldn't touch that if I went around to the farmer's market and bought this item from that vendor and this item for that vendor. I'd be closer to 70 or 80 bucks doing it that way.
Another factor that I failed to mention earlier was a few of you said, hey, we like to go, into the fields and get our own stuff. There started to be food handling laws about who's handling other people's food and the requirements for like cleanliness and storage and stuff like that started becoming more and more in place. Thank goodness, because we do want our food chain to be safe and verifiable and who touched it and making sure that people doing it are healthy and all that kind of thing. But it meant that that's why we had pre-prepared boxes and, limited people handling other people's stuff or stuff in general, because we needed our people who were out picking food or processing food to be properly trained in a proper facility for it. Not restaurant level, but more than people think. It had to be verified, and the health unit could just come in and go by the criteria, and if it was bad enough, shut us right down.
Yeah, for those that don't know, an expectation, for example, with a bag of lettuce mix is it has to have a sink with a 3-bay stainless steel. It needs to be washed and dried in a certain time, and we don't want bacteria growth, and then the bagging it and chilling it, it all has to follow their list, or like she said, you can be shut down. Robin, did you have something to add before we
Well,
move on?
I was just thinking there was we had a vendor from Indiana that drove in, and they lost their organic certification, not because of what they were doing, but they lived next to a pig farm,
Yeah,
and it was terrible flooding,
yeah,
and the floods washed all through their property, all the pig stuff. And so they could no longer, maintain their organic certification. They had to, I think it takes at least in Illinois, I think it takes 3 years,
Yes.
clean soil, to do that. And so that was a really sad thing that I remember. I also remember one of the vendors, I was like, oh, do you have some of your green beans? They were so good last week. He's like, yeah, we picked a whole crate of those last night and they were sitting there. And this morning they were gone. So someone had come and picked their their harvest.
Yes. Yeah.
we
We'd have to, we were on the edge of a city of, say, I don't know. At that time, it was about 300,000 to 400,000 people. And what we did was, because we were on the edge of the city, we were able to do farmers markets in the city. And that's why we were able to sell to people who had money and chefs that were in the fancier restaurants. Out where I am now, which is an hour and a half north of there and much more rural, there are very few fancy restaurants, and most of the people are at pretty basic incomes. So the type of farmer market that there is, the type of stuff that will sell is different. They try to make it a little more elevated than the stuff at the regular supermarket, so they're not competing as directly for that, but it is not nearly as elaborate and diverse as in the big city, because there's just so many more people willing to pay and willing to buy.
I'm gonna have us think about what actually sells month to month, and I do have a little speech about that. And while we're thinking about that, I'm gonna come into the chat to talk about Eddie's comment was mentioning huge Mennonite community close who has an unbelievable variety. They also sell seeds and starts really cheap. That's a goal I have this year since my garden center closed, is to go to the Amish greenhouse. That is a good driving distance that I can manage because I hate traveling, and to check them out. And then there's north of me a place I want to check out. Um, the other comment that Dusty made about, needing to know what to do with things, that is a piece of the website that the CSA I used is a recipes column. They also sometimes include recipe cards with your box. They reach out to members to submit ideas. So if people want to have that education piece, because that is another thing that we can talk about with farmers markets, for example, microgreens, selling microgreens to a retirement community. They don't know what to do with them. And so we have to have either prepared labeling, or you spend the time with the customer. And if you're the only one running the booth, that gets really complicated when you're talking about turnover time. So going into, did you have something to say, Jay?
I was just about to say, I would say a third of my communication at the 4 farmers markets we did every week was education, basically, to people, like explaining, what does that weird looking thing do, how would I use it? And you have to make it comparables to things that they can relate to in terms of vegetables or squash or something that they're used to, and you make that bridge between what they're used to and why this is different. And you had to spend extra time talking about like nuttiness and smoothness and easy to cook and all that kind of thing. So you became kind of like your own little marketing board about the different things. So you couldn't just put things on a table and sit back and go, well, hope it sells, because that's not how that goes in a premium market. You have to know what your stuff is and how to work with it, and be able to articulate and explain that in a way that someone's going to take that in and be persuaded to buy.
Yeah.
The first time I had ground cherries was in the CSA box,
Yeah.
and I had to ask what these things in a little husk were. I'm like, is that a little tomatillo? No, that's a ground cherry. Okay, how do I eat it?
Hmm.
So, they had to explain that to me. Um, and you know what? Was thinking back as you said that, Jay. I did get 2 recipe cards with every box. There were 2 little,
Yes.
recipe. I mean, they were just cut out on paper kind of things, but it was great because it gave you some ideas what to do with the produce that you had.
We tried to do that, and we did some kind of, but honestly, you feel after about a 16-hour day, and you're trying to salvage what produce that, is going to have to get taken care of, even still, like in the dark, in the night, you're a little too crushed under to make perky little recipes. They don't have to be super fancy, and we did do a bit of that, but not nearly enough, because when you're doing this, you are the accountant, you are the setup person, you are the repair person, you are the car repair person if it needs to be, because it's got to go if the produce has got to get there. You're setting up, you are marketing, you are finance, you are the cashier. You're doing whatever it takes to kind of get through the day. And you're wearing about 20 hats. You really are.
I do remember, Sean, you were talking about purchasing the packaging to put, like the greens and stuff in. I do remember one of the vendors saying that he was having trouble getting the price that he needed to get until he displayed his merchandise differently. He got some of these wooden crates and put them at different levels on his table, with a different something in each cubby hole. And then he packaged it in a wrapper and had stickers made with his logo on it to seal it. And once he did that, it was like same thing he was been doing all along, but all of a sudden it just sold because it looked different.
Yes.
Isn't
What
that
we wound up
amazing?
utilizing was, and I forget what they were made of, but something I forget was a particular material, kind of like straw, and we did rectangular square baskets. But even setting them flat or upright didn't work. Tilting them on an angle made a difference of about 20% in our sales. So they were kind of displayed but yet contained. And we had ethical issues about clear plastic, but realistically, we had to have clear plastic so people could see the produce. But if we could, and we didn't always do this because we're very, very busy, a sticker that, like you say, had the name of the place or the logo slightly artistically and ideally with a bit of color or gloss or something like gold or green or something like that to seal it, I would say that combination of display of both the product and the place doubled the sales, pretty much doubled the sales. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the kind of people who have comfortable incomes expect a certain amount of display, and they also want a bit of an arty story. So if you have an odd looking squash, you have to have a bit of a lyrical way of explaining, oh, this is a such and such, it's related to the such and such. Are you familiar with that squash? Oh, okay. What squashes are you familiar with? Well, this one cooks very much like that one that you know about, but it's got a smoother, nuttier taste. You can use this in about 3 ways that's off the top of my head that you can use. And that's they want a little sales pattern to go with the thing. Yeah.
So Shani, at your farmers market, what kind of vendors are there alongside of your vegetable vendors?
We have a coffee place, so it's a mix of teas, coffees, and what was the other beverage? I feel like there's another beverage they sell. Sometimes they sell scones, and then there's sometimes a goat's milk soap vendor. There is it's my cousins actually. They do meat. It's like Angus cattle that they sell out of a truck that's refrigerated, and then sometimes there always is somebody that has the crocheted things, the crafty things.
Mhm.
Um, we do have eggs, honey, maple syrup, if you don't consider that a gardening fruit and vegetable product. That's what I could easily spend $100 just on maple syrup and honey, I tell you that. We do sometimes have cut flower people, but it's hard. It's hard to bring cut flowers to a hot parking lot. Um, is that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah. Um, Mine is like there's a specific bakery that comes in and they're so good that they pre-take orders for a lot of things. And so it's a lot of it is just pickup. There's stuff there that you can just buy, but a lot of it's pickup. We have a meat vendor. We have a garlic vendor. So she's got, garlic products until the next season's garlic comes in. And that's when I get my garlic from for my garden, my starts. We
Mhm.
have a pie vendor. We have a pet food vendor, so homemade uh, pet food. Fruit, very large fruit vendor. That's one that comes from Michigan. Cheese vendor that comes from Wisconsin. Um, two huge organic, oh, three huge organic vegetable stands. Oh, there's a knife sharpener who comes every week to it. A spice person, already jarred spices. Um, and then there is someone who sells flowers, but she calls them button bouquets. So they're in a little, um, you know, little jar like this, and then it's a little bouquet for $10 is her price point. Um, and then there's things that kind of rotate in and out. They kind of, switch it up. In the early part of this season, a lot of people are selling plant starts out of their booths.
Yes,
Uh, Plant starts and radishes, because that's what's coming in, right? Um,
we
but
did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then they always have a spot where they can put someone who wants to come and play music and put their jar out for tips. So they're playing for tips. So there's always music to kind of have a fun feel to it. I mean, it's a nice little experience. I think a lot of people just go there to socialize, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's probably three food vendors of various kinds.
Hmm. Yeah, that's typical with the farmers markets that we have had here, and the bigger one that I was talking about, the bigger ones that I was involved with, that kind of thing. Sometimes some farmers markets are pretty casual about what rules or requirements they have for the vendors, and then as they become more popular, they kind of tighten up on some rules. They start to discover that there's issues or problems, like with, for example, out of state people, like, loading up massive trucks and just coming in bringing stuff that they didn't even grow themselves and stuff. So sometimes they're a little naive in their non-rules at the beginning, and then gradually figure out different things that they have to tighten up. About the issue about what sells month to month, I agree about the plant starts. But the thing is, for us in my area, the vast majority of the plant starts that happened in May for us is basically the only things that sell are tomatoes and peppers, and a little bit of some of the different herbs. But generally speaking, what people want is tomatoes that they can somewhat relate to, but that they can't go buy at the local places. So they want to hear something that they've heard of, or that you're selling them on a nice tale about it, but that's what they want. And we tried bringing other stuff, and nothing else ever worked. Just tomatoes, peppers, and a little bit of herbs, and nothing else. Just, they just got a little shop worn from the traveling, and
That's why this is where I rant. I'm going to rant for a minute here about this what sells each month thing. It's like people have this disconnect of when food grows for real. Like
Yeah.
they want the earliest tomato. Like the first person with a tomato to the market sells. But then in July when we have tomatoes, they don't want to buy them. The other thing is they don't want weird tomatoes. It seems like all those cool heirlooms that us gardeners are like dying to get our hands on. They're over there like I want a beefsteak that looks red and round, and where's the sauce making stuff. And sometimes people, you'll get lucky and they'll want to buy like a bushel from you. The other thing is they'll come looking for a watermelon in June, and it's like September is when Minnesota has a watermelon. Are you new here? Like, you can't be rude, it's the things that sell in the spring. It's the canned preserved things, asparagus, rhubarb, plants. We definitely see a lot of that. People are excited to get out of winter and get out and see people in the sun, so it's really busy. But then, like we talked about with the weather, when it gets really hot or really windy or really rainy in the middle of summer, when we actually have things to sell, nobody shows up.
yes, all those things can be true. Yes. I it's a hard living in many, many categories. And there's many reasons why they have to charge the price they do. And one is they bring a truckload or a truck and trailer load full of stuff, and it's a rainy day or a windy day or a hot day, and hardly anybody shows up. And a certain amount of the produce goes bad just because you can only take care of it to its premium for a certain amount of time in the market, and then it's waste produce. And many vendors, many markets have other sub rules that people aren't aware of. For example, many markets now in our area have a rule where you can never charge less than another vendor in the market.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
you can't be the low price leader. Even at the end of the day, when the produce is getting a bit sad or wilted or whatever, some of the markets, you still can never do a reduction. So you are required to charge the same as the booth down the way. And sort of the thing is what you just said about tomatoes. We grew 54 heirloom varieties, okay? And the requirements for us to do organic and heirloom and stuff with our tomatoes is a lot more handling, a lot more cost, a lot more this, that, and the other. But we weren't allowed to charge less than Johnny down the way, who had your basic Roma, nothing saying bad about Romas, but your basic Romas that you could buy at a supermarket, and they had a set price for it. We couldn't charge more or less than them, even though ours was a much more complex, diverse item. So, yeah.
So it's interesting. I've seen, them put up their like pre-made little sign on their thing, and then all of a sudden I'll see a cross out and then a new price.
Usually.
Well, it's usually, I think, because, Susie down the way's got it for $3 and they've got $4, on their sign, and nobody's buying from them because Susie's selling it for $3. So
I can't speak for everyone and I can't speak for everywhere, but at the markets I went at, those signs were permanent.
oh,
They
yeah.
put as if they had discounted it, and it was what they did. So that you
Okay.
felt like you were
You were
getting it.
getting the loss leader. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Very common. Not always, but very common.
We have a rule here at our farmers market where there's no pre-selling. So like there's a bell that rings and that's when you're allowed to sell to people. And when the bell rings again, you have to stop. You could not make a
Wow.
sale before or after that bell. And I thought that was ridiculous. But there's
Especially
rules for a
after.
reason, I guess. Like, come on, people. What? I guess meet me down the road and like what are people supposed to do?
None of my local farmers markets are you allowed to reduce the produce ever for any reason. Okay.
Mm.
And you have to sell the same as everybody else at the market. So it's a level playing field for everyone. A bigger one somewhere else, at the end of the day, that's up to them whether they want to reduce them or not. And so I would go there as a special treat for myself. And it's quite some distance away, farther than Shawnee would drive, quite some distance away, but a special treat a couple times a year. I would go there and get the fall produce, and then I would buy like a flat of like berries or something like that. A little bit sad, a little bit shopper at the end of the day, but immediately taking it home and process like crazy for hours, because that's how I could afford having enough to do jams and stuff.
We're gonna switch over into the shopper perspective. So we've really hit hard. Normally we keep these shows for under an hour, but we're not gonna keep it under an hour tonight. The shopper perspective. So I want to hear from you guys. What makes you stop at a booth? What makes you not stop? What makes you keep going? Do you care about signage like organic, local? Maybe, well, we talked about some places that everything is the same price at each booth. Maybe you're looking for something of value or unique. And do you like samples? I want to hear from you in the replay as well on these pieces. So I know for me, I feel guilty if I buy everything at one table because everyone can see each other. So I'm like, well, okay, we'll get something from this person and then we'll get something from this person. And I'm spending $100 no matter what it feels like sometimes. Because, yeah, I want a beverage and a snack. And the kids want one of the baked goods when I'm like, I can make this at home way better because I'm just saying the person at mine, I can cook better for baked goods. So what do you guys want to say about it?
Robin?
What draws me in? Well, I like to go, at least at the first couple of times I go for the year, I like to look at everybody and what they have.
You do like a lab.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I go, it's not that enormous. I mean, there's a lot, it's
No,
big enough, but it's
ours
not
is
that
tiny.
enormous.
Yeah.
Um, and then, after that, I mean, I've been going for so many years and there, unless it's a new vendor, I know them and I know what I like that they grow. So I'm waiting for that to, this one's got the corn that is to die for. This one, has the red curry squash in the fall, and I have to get there early in the morning if I want any of them. You know, so I just kind of know. Um,
We made
yeah, that I I get sucked into all of them.
we made friends with the maple syrup people. And so I set aside, like, can I buy a case from you? And they didn't have that there. So it was next time I'll bring the money, bring the case. And I said to them how I was a beginner gardener at the time. And I still kind of feel like that. But he goes, oh, because I bought garlic. And I said, I'm going to replant it. And he goes, I'm going to bring you Egyptian walking onions, the things at the top, to replant. And he did. And now I'm rich in Egyptian
Mhm.
walking onions just because I had a conversation with somebody at the farmer's market.
Yes. And the nice thing is you are developing a relationship with someone who is literally covering their costs and making choices about the quality of their life, the quality of your life, building into the community and stuff. So I support the idea of, farmers markets as well as some of the other things we happen to have mentioned tonight. My problem is that economically, what they have to charge to cover their costs doesn't fit into what I'm able to pay. Now, when I do go to the farmers markets, and I do try probably about 10 or 12 a year, even yet, is I do that loop you talk about, the walk around. And when I'm doing the walk around, I'm looking for quality, variety, price, because unfortunately I'm very price conscious. And I'm thinking about how that thing will work, like within my diet, within what I plan to have, what I can afford, and things like that. And display has a small part in it, but because I know the tricks of display, they don't really affect me, I don't think, very much. I note that someone makes the effort, but it doesn't mean that much personally to me. The quality of the produce. For me, because I'm price conscious, if I can make a deal with a farmer and it's allowed to be, I'm willing to take the seconds, the hurt, the sad, the stuff they have trouble selling, and doing things with it. And I get a bargain, they get produce that isn't considered to be prime, and we make a deal. And that's sort of my happy place, I guess you might say, as a bargain hunter, that I understand where their target market is, but I'm willing to be sort of the secondary level.
Dusty Flat says one market has a small farm animal zoo, another has a flea market. They all sell in bulk and always honey, syrup, preserves, and popcorn. Very casual. Radio Jonesy has a question: card friendly vendors or cash vendors? Which do you prefer? I bring cash,
Yeah.
cash only.
Yep, cash is king. Everything else has cards and has
Fee.
complications and costs to it.
Hmm.
It is ours is both. I can't think of a vendor that doesn't take both, but we try to go with cash because we know that, what is it, like 4% gets taken off the top if you use your card?
Yeah.
There's a fee for them to have it too, to have the device to read the card. When I was on the WIC Women, Infant, and Children program, we would get paper vouchers in the summer, $25 total, $5 each voucher, and you could only buy certain things with it at certified vendors. It was this, how things are. And we also had EBT at one point for a very short time. We had that card, and you could go to this tent and you could transfer it into tokens and you could take the money from your EBT card to spend at the farmer's market. And I'm always like big spender. So she would just like write it down because she wasn't going to hand me, that many tokens. So if you didn't know that, check that in your local area.
I'm
And
just going to add to that this is rare, but sometimes there's special arrangements by the physicians groups in your area or the health organizations, or sometimes the local towns will have sort of like a subsidized food program different than the ones you were talking about, that makes it so local dollars. Sometimes it's a barter trade thing. Sometimes it's like given to people who are connected to certain agencies or organizations, so that there's a possibility that if you're low income, you can basically get kind of like local vouchers to use at farmers markets.
Yeah. I like that. There's a, I think it's called POP program. There's another tent you stop at, and if you have a child, you fill out this form, and anytime you go that year, your child gets a certain amount of other types of tokens, and then it's if they use the token and pay for the thing, the vendor gives them a stamp on their card. Once you have 10 stamps, you get another voucher. It's like one of those systems.
I've
Eddie,
heard I've heard the vendors bartering between each other,
have
you
you?
know,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
I'll take your garlic for your cheese, or, you know,
I
whatever.
wish I have a, we're gonna get into what I wish my market had here next. Eddie says our local market is only about 25 feet long, maybe 3 or 4 vendors tops. They live in the sticks. Mine isn't very big. Dusty says I've never been to the city market.
Oh,
Um,
there's one in Wisconsin right over the border that is so big. I mean, so big. We were probably walking for 2 hours, and we still hadn't gotten all the way through the market. And
what?
I'd already, you know, bought everything I could possibly eat in the next 2 weeks.
I
And
like
then you're carrying it at all. Dave's
I like
here.
Dave's trick there about the looking for the potatoes with the dirt on them.
Yeah.
I've seen people putting dirt on the ones that they buy in bulk.
Oh, wow.
That they did not.
No way.
Oh heck yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm myth busting here. There there's rainbows and kittens, and all is right with the universe. And there's wonderful people out there, and there's people that are meh, and then there's people who are okay. And I've seen all of them vending at
Oh, my
farmers markets, and
goodness.
because like I said, I probably helped vend at around, I'm not sure, more than 400, farmers markets. And so, not lifetime achievement award or anything, but I've seen enough of it, and we're all setting up kind of, in a fluster, in a hurry. And so I got to see them doing the swiping the dirt on the produce and stuff kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
One slightly thing that's also another point that we were discussing a little while ago, because you were mentioning about the idea of like taster samples. We used to do things like that, and it absolutely works, especially if it's something that's got a unique taste. People really like that. But then the regulations for the health unit became different. So you are no longer handling a whole produce. If you start cutting it, putting it in a container, or serving it to the public, the requirements are almost impossible to actually do at a booth like that.
yeah,
So giving free samples correctly, hygienically, exactly the way they want, how do you do a 3-part sync there? Like just for you and the produce and the
it's same here.
yeah.
It's there has to be a class taken, and it's like samples can be at this one designated spot, not spread out all over. It has to be in a covered container with a toothpick and on ice.
Yes.
And I'm like,
they can't possibly touch it. It has to be one person who's wearing gloves, who cleaned in advance, who took the training course. There's 2 levels of food handling certificates that you have to take. And then for you to allow the person to take it, they can't take it out of the general container. It has to be single thing to them, but what you're allowed to touch, and you can't touch the food, and they can't touch the food. And oh yeah. And they do stings. Like they do come by and
you'll
make
get checked.
sure, because they want everybody safe, right?
We have another topic here of what markets need more of. So this could be anything from mushrooms to fresh bread, pasture-raised eggs, flowers, herbs, fermented foods, things that are ready to eat. So let's dream a little. What do you wish was on your farmers market tables? I know I wish mine was bigger, and honestly, I wish the location would change, but I'm okay. So I gave my 2 cents because you all know me. I definitely filled that out. And so what I suggested was microgreens, mushrooms. And when I say that, I don't mean the wild ones. I mean the oyster and wine cap stuff that you see, lion's mane grown in gardens, and then popcorn kernels to pop our own popcorn. Because yeah, there's people that sell pre-popped popcorn, but I have to travel to another market to get the farm grown kernels. Um, I want a snack mix because when we're there, we want a snack. And usually, it's with kids, we can buy something and eat. I loved that Robin's had the dog treat thing because that's something ours is missing. My husband said he would like to see the beard oil options with the soaps and candles. Woodworking projects, as we've seen that elsewhere with cribbage boards, cutting boards, spoons. I would like a variety of jerky, please, because they don't sell that there. I've also seen sourdough people that have their own stands sell pre-made pizza crust that you then take and put your toppings on
Ooh,
and bake. I
yeah.
want that. Okay. I want hand pottery because there's different types of cut flowers that require a different shape of vase. So having hand pottery, I think classifies as the handmade, and then the vases, cups, mugs. I want to continue to see eggs, honey, maple syrup, and then dry tea blends. Okay. Someone else. What do you want to see? Robin?
I was just thinking, we don't and there's nobody who sells eggs at the
Okay.
farmer's market.
There was a stipulation with that, actually. I didn't write it down. They have to be stored in a cooler at all times, not on display, and they can be unwashed, but they have to be only a week, no more than a week old.
Yeah. And I've never seen anybody, try the fermented foods. What else was on your list?
Okay. Um, dog
You,
treats. Okay, now we talked woodworking projects, jerky, pizza crust, pottery, and then the banner that I had was this one.
we have mushrooms. We have one vendor who sells mushrooms, and he usually has three varieties. The little white button ones, the wine cap, and something else. Um, we have the fresh bread, and we've had two different vendors do fresh bread, but the one, just like head and shoulders over the other. Nobody's ever done fermented food. And then we've got like three vendors who sell food. One does, like Mexican tacos kind of thing. One does mostly like cheese sandwiches, grilled right in front of you with different gourmet cheeses. So it's kind of upscaley. Um,
I'd just like to say that when those markets offer that opportunity to you, if you care about the market or you care about produce, sit down with one of those snacks they've got at hand and take the time to really think it through and do that. Because in each case, when they did a study or a quiz like that, the people running the markets, if they didn't already have vendors offering that, they offered that possibility to the existing vendors to consider expanding what they're doing. But they also went outside and started trying to attract people who were doing that. And I sat down one time at a market I used to attend quite regularly when I was in the city, like as a customer. And I sat down and I wrote pages of suggestions to them. And I put stars or underline or something, ones I thought were most crucial for them to notice. And they actually contacted me back again and said it was like one of the most complete things that they did. And they literally used mine and other people's as a template. And eventually, over about a 2-year period, that market that was adequate, basic, all right, expanded to the point where it was eventually, after about 2 years, 4 times the size. So in a city, so different market, but the diversity of the amount of stuff, and they made sure that they got stuff that didn't overlap too much. Like they had, a limit of like a couple of vendors vending the same thing, but lots and lots of diversity over the stuff. And it's taken off like gangbusters. It's a little too far for me to travel to from where I am now, but they took it really seriously and literally said, okay, who can we find in the city that does these things, and reach out to them and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Before I show Robin, I'm gonna say that's exactly what happened is I had a conversation because I know who it is that runs the market. I had a conversation about the things that I suggested, and I said, "I know you used to have a microgreens guy," and I talked to him directly on how complicated it got. So here, Robin, go ahead.
So, this is my current microgreens. I've got 3 hemp mats on there with my little microgreens. This, at my farmer's market, would be in 3 separate little,
Clamshells.
clamshells,
Yep.
and that would be $5 each, so I would be holding
Yep.
$15 worth of microgreens.
Same here.
Yeah, it'd be about 12 to 15 here for each third.
Okay.
Like you're
Yeah.
holding easily $30 worth there, easy.
Yeah, well, unless, who knows, 2026 prices, what her, I forgot that we had the microgreen vendor.
And one of the things, just mentioning back about what you just said about the microgreen vendors,
Yeah.
sometimes there's reasons why in their personal lives or in the way the market runs that they had to go away from it for a while. So you might get a different manager from the market or something and says, oh, what you need is a certified, chill station, like some kind of cooler or something we make available to you. Would a wine fridge be enough? We will make sure that that's like plugged in and available for you if you come back to our market, and it will be only for you, Mr. Microgreen, or whatever, whatever. And that kind of gesture can be the enough so that they come back and start doing it again. But there was some complication about the market location or the ability for them to do something that sometimes it doesn't take more than a step or two to make that difference so that they're back vending again.
Yeah, this guy moved away, and then sorry, I'm gonna finish this, and then I'll go to you,
Yeah,
Robin.
no, go ahead.
I'm not heavily involved with those local city council, but I definitely like they know my name, I'm pretty sure, because I have things to say. And so they wanted to build a bathroom at this parking lot where this farmers market happens because we also have car shows and we always have a food vendor party like once a month, and then we have like a wind down thing, downtown closes and a bunch of people can go there and do stuff. And so like there's a splash pad right there. We needed this bathroom built, right? And so you know how it goes with taxpayer money, people have this going on. And I said, can we please have an extension off of this for a kitchen that has a steel table and a sink? So when we have stuff that come on, put it together. And I haven't been in the building yet, but I'm pretty sure they didn't listen to me. So Robin, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking about electricity because some of the, when I looked at some of the other towns, some of the booths could get electricity, and most of them, it's like $30,
Yes.
30 or $40 to get electricity if they have it available. Mine doesn't have it available. So the ones that need electricity have a little generator.
Yes.
Like the knife guy I know has a generator there so he can do the knives.
Yep. The coffee guy brings a generator.
See, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things about the ambiance of a farmer's market. Oh, fresh flowers, pretty smell, coffee brewing, food being prepared, all this kind of thing, and generators going
Loud.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased to tell you that my partner, who's quite into this kind of stuff, and myself slowly getting into it, is there are now battery generator options
Solar.
that are
Yeah.
absolutely silent and will give thousands of watts of power at not very much money, so that the cacophony and the noise and the pollution off those gas generators need not happen anymore at the farmers markets. The price and availability is amazing for an ecological, quiet option.
Yeah, I have one. And I frequently talk to the coffee guy for a bunch of reasons because hey, it's local and I love his product. And so I mean sometimes he's vendored at the private van events that we're at and he's like, you actually live here. And I'm like, yes, and I participate in this. And I talked to him about, can you offer your energy ball with not peanut butter? Can you offer it with sun butter? And so when I see him again, I wanted to bring up, do you have a solar battery bank versus propane or diesel or unleaded or whatever his generator's running on? So I appreciate you bringing that point to the table because it's a world we live in now. We have that option.
And my partner is very obsessed by that topic, so I'm hearing weekly all the latest things on what's happening with these systems. Just as an example, 5,000 watts, which basically can run most small households reasonably.
Yeah.
You can now get those in Canadian funny money, which is way more than anywhere else. And I think it's something like $1,200 now for a particular company. I won't name names, but you can go out there and find these things. And the technology is improving by the month, and the prices are going down by the month. And if they have a small system, let's say they can only afford $300 to $400, they can have a very basic solar panel that will keep resupplying it, just kind of leaning against it and being super eco and not very much cost.
Yeah, I did get the solar panel with it. And you can have it, you could be using it and charging it at the same time. We are going to move into the wrap up portion of our conversation. So this is the time for our goodbyes and promotions of anything coming up. Robin Gardens, you go first.
Okay, well, I put a video out and it is the thumbnail says Seeds in Winter. It's about winter sowing. So I show you winter sowing 3 ways in the video. So pop on over and check that out.
I don't operate a channel, so I'm not really a direct content creator, but I do support other channels, and I support Muddy Puddles Farm, who has her own videos and is live Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Oh, so sorry, 4 p.m. because of the time change. 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, different in other places, 7 p.m. UK. And I also help Gardner Scott on Monday mornings with his live streams. And I help Enoch over on his channel, The Urban Gardener. And he has shows on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night. And currently this week, I'm not scheduled to be any kind of guest or co-host, but things change sometimes. So you never know when you might find me in front of the camera because life changes. And I'm getting a little bit of some suggestions and pressures towards actually being a little bit more of a content creator. And I'm a total newbie. So if people can come up with very simple budget conscious ways that perhaps I will start creating actual videos this season, I'm open to suggestions.
I was going to say something, but maybe it's a private thing, so I'm not going to say it in regards to what you just said.
You can talk off channel. Yeah.
Okay, so Robin Gardens and I do a show called Roots and Rambles, and it's not like scheduled for you to click on it yet, but I think we decided it is going to be on the 19th of March. And what are we unpacking, Robin?
We're going to talk about color in the garden, and that's going to translate to a few different ways, and I'll leave that be a little bit nebulous so that you come and check it out.
Yes, and then on the Urban Gardener channel, which I'll put a link to his channel, there is a segment on Monday nights called Grow What You Eat, and I'm a contributor, Robin's a contributor, and so is Katrina from Sow and Tear. So we rotate each Monday who's going to be on, and we have a special surprise one coming up for March. So stay tuned for that. Check out his channel for the Monday night. The Green Room is what it's called, and we have that segment, Grow What You Eat. I think that's all the things we have to promote. Let's go in the chat to see, is there any promoting happening? Is Carol going live tomorrow?
She says yes. 10:30
Okay, good.
Eastern.
Okay, here it is.
Yep.
So there's where we'll be tomorrow.
I forgot to mention her. Yes, I support her too.
Yeah.
I support some other channels that are on hiatus right now, like they're having a break for a while and not available. I did see a suggestion from Will It Grow saying, how about a morning in the life of Jay Dixon?
This one.
I've got a few ideas. What I'm actually asking for is on a very, very basic and cheap method. How do I film? How do I edit? Like I'm literally nowhere on this. So if any of you content creators who happen to have my email address or would like it can go, oh, Jay, watch this video. This will explain it really well for you, because we are talking about the basic early stages. And I'm not yet committed, but I'm getting a little pressure to try and consider doing it. And I'm wobbling. I'm considering. Yeah.
Well, that
You know,
is
sorry.
Go ahead.
go ahead.
So I started out on Instagram, Jay.
Okay.
It's with the iPhone, it's just short little snippets, and you can put it together in the phone, kind of thing. That might be where you want to start. Is get yourself out there on Instagram and get a taste and say, hey, I either like this or I don't like this so much. And at least you've got something to point to then.
Yep.
I have a presence on Instagram.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
All right. Farmers markets connect communities, growers, and food in a very powerful way. So, whether you're a vendor, a gardener, a baker, or someone who loves shopping local, your experience matters. Join the conversation and share what you've seen at your local market in the comments on the replay. And if this conversation got you thinking about the future of food, be sure to watch our next video. Food prices are about to change. Here's the plan. I give you ideas and steps and links in that description of that video, always under the resources section. And if you feel like you're ready for the next step in your gardening journey, check out the video, The Continuous Garden Next. Grow every day in every way.